Let's talk about fairness for Colorado's firefighters who get real sick on the job.
Our members, while they're fighting for their life, shouldn't be having to fight to make sure that they are getting coverage.
We look at what it means for life in Colorado if Republicans win the state Senate or if Democrats hold control. A call for President Biden to create a new national monument in our state after Congress has decided not to do it. Helping low-income seniors who are struggling in Colorado's wealthiest county. Those are the headlines we picked. Which headlines would you write?
My good news is that I just got married this summer, and I'm really excited about it. Hi, Brooke.
Your headlines and ours on Next. If they're going to run into burning buildings for us, seems least we can do is have their back if they get sick as a result of their work. For too long, Colorado's firefighters have been battling fires as well as battling a system that didn't always consider their cancers connected to their service. Our Anusha Roy looks at how that's being fixed.
There has been life-changing evolution within the fire industry.
Historically, it was you need to be tough.
Now, Denver's Deputy Fire Chief Kathleen Vandenberg said it's all about being honest about the job.
World Health Organization in July of this summer made the designation that the act of firefighting is carcinogenic.
But for more than a decade, some firefighters have struggled to get the help they need in Colorado. In 2007,
prior to this, we were not accepting cancer.
A state statute was passed so eligible firefighters could get workers' comp when diagnosed with cancer.
With workers' compensation, once your claim is approved, then we would pay for all medical bills are paid for, certain incidentals.
Over the next decade, Devin McMillan with the city of Denver said firefighters started pointing out problems. Half the claims were accepted, half were denied. Firefighters were trying to prove they got job-related cancers while fighting cancer and waiting as long as 6 months to hear if they would get workers' comp.
During which time employees are paying out of pocket.
If they were denied, they relied on their own insurance and paid out of pocket as well.
Panic. Like not knowing what your future is going to be and to be worried about your family, your own well-being. And it shouldn't be that you're also worrying about, do I have income? Do I have a job?
So 10 years after the first statute was passed, the state legislature passed an amendment to launch the Voluntary Cancer Award Program to make it easier and quicker for firefighters to get help. But the Denver Fire Department was evolving again and hiring more women.
Right above 8% right now with a commitment that we will be increasing.
Breast cancer was not on the list of cancers eligible for coverage with this newer program, and a couple of women had started falling sick.
Fortunately, they were not covered under the current presumptive laws.
That prompted this latest evolution, expanding which cancers and the number of firefighters who can get help.
We matter, and that we're going to be taken care of.
So there were 5 cancers on the original list for coverage, and now breast cancer was added last year. Thyroid cancer will be added next year to the Voluntary Cancer Award Program. All of this backed up by research and medical evidence. Now, while Denver is involved in the statewide change, Denver Fire is also actively working with City Council. I think they met a couple of days ago to opt into that voluntary program themselves, so something that they've been looking at and researching for a while, too.
So some of these hazards seem like the kind of thing that you deal with in all kinds of workplaces, and then some are obviously very specific to firefighting.
Yeah, and some of these challenges, I asked the state, does it go beyond firefighting? And, there's things that are easier to prove that connection, right? If you fall, if you break a bone. But proving that you have something like cancer and that it's from work is a lot more complicated. So that's why you have these newer programs that are aiming to take that guesswork out of it to make it easier for firefighters. But at the same time, that's a one-time payout, but it's easier to get, while workers' comp would cover more, but it's just so much harder for a firefighter to be able to get.
Anusha, thank you. The mom in Douglas County, accused of plotting with members of the conspiracy group QAnon to kidnap her son out of foster care, has been found guilty at trial. Jury convicted Cynthia Absug today of kidnapping and child abuse. She has become somewhat of a celebrity in right-wing conspiracy circles around the country. Prosecutors say that she put her son through risky medical procedures and made up serious illnesses he didn't have. They say she then plotted a raid with QAnon believers to kidnap him out of a foster home after she lost custody. QAnon is a conspiracy group that believes that former President Trump is going to round up and execute his political enemies for drinking the blood of children. Absug could be sentenced to anything from probation to 6 years in prison. When State Senator Kevin Priola switched parties earlier this week, Republican to Democrat, Priola single-handedly made it a lot harder for Republicans to try and retake control of the state Senate. That's the politics of it. Let's look at what the balance of the state Senate means for the direction of Colorado, the impact on our lives. What would Democrats pass if they continue to have complete control versus what would split power accomplish? Here's politics guy Marshall Zellinger.
One of the signature bills Colorado Democrats passed last year was to put existing abortion rights access into state law. And if Democrats stay in control at the legislature next year, they want to protect medical professionals helping patients who travel here from out of state for abortion access.
There are Coloradans that could be wrapped up in that. And those are the doctors and the nurses and the providers. And those who I know I have a priority in wanting to protect.
For Democratic State Senate President Steve Fenberg to be in charge for another 2 years, he needs Democrats to win at least 3 of 7 seats expected to be close on election night.
Whether it's the climate crisis, the threats against our democracy, reproductive health access, I think those are the issues that are very clear. We do not move forward whatsoever if Republicans are in charge of one of the chambers.
The split legislatures kept the extreme elements from governing the entire middle, that is Colorado.
The last time Colorado had a split legislature, Democrats in control of the House and Republicans in control of the Senate, was 2017 and 2018, when Kevin Grantham was in charge of the Senate.
That's the last thing I want on my epitaph, the last Republican president of the state Senate.
We can look back at those years to see what type of bills ultimately make it through to the governor and which ones never had a chance. The majority of bills that passed in 2017 and 18 were not controversial, approving new license plates, for example, protecting kids from sexting, and providing immunity for someone breaking into a hot car to rescue an animal.
How do we make this thing functional? How do we make it work where enough people don't not like it?
Certain bills get blocked. In 2018, the Republican-led Senate killed a red flag bill, which allowed certain people to ask a judge to temporarily take weapons from a person deemed a threat to themselves or others. The kind of red flag bill that passed the next year, with Democrats in control of both the House and Senate. I don't want to overlook the issues within the Democratic Party, especially in the Senate. If Democrats keep control, Democrats don't always see eye to eye. One issue Fenberg mentioned was water, which he sees as a key issue this year or coming up in the next legislative session. If there's a fight internally, it could be with rural and urban Democrats, or if the Republicans are in charge, you've got Republicans who have different mindsets on what to do with state water.
One effect of Priola being kind of the moderate swing vote, first as a Republican and now as a conservative Democrat, is that if Democrats keep control, they can lose somebody on their far left and still pass legislation so long as they keep Priola and the rest of the folks.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like that worked better when he was a Republican and you could attract from the other side. You still, if it's 18-17 and you lose one of your own, then you still have to attract someone from the other side. If it's 19-16 and you lose one of your own and you still have Priola, then you're good at 18-17 and you could still move forward.
This is why people get to decide these things in November. Marshall, thank you. So if State Senator Priola and his switch from Republican to Democrat ends up being the deciding vote in who controls the Senate after November, expect a battle royale in the recall to get him out of office. I've got a real question, though, about just how much energy, enthusiasm, and money either side will be willing to spend on this if Democrats end up with a more comfortable margin after Election Day. The Republicans organizing the recall against Priola have said this week they are going forward, even if taking him out doesn't win them back control of the Senate. Democrats told us today they'll defend Priola, even if his vote is not needed to keep Democrats in the majority.
Even if it isn't a deciding seat, we would have his back. There's no question he is part of our party. He supports us. We support him. We will defend anybody who is targeted with an unfair recall effort.
We'll see. I mean, if Priola is one of a few extra votes in a Democratic majority, will wealthy Republican donors really pour in the cash that would be needed for a recall rather than just trying to win Priola's seat in 2014? On the flip side of this, if Democrats don't have to have Priola to maintain their majority in the Senate, are Democrats really going to rally to defend a legislator who disagrees with them on all kinds of stuff? I mean, he's anti-abortion access, he's pro-gun rights, very typical conservative in a lot of ways. Both sides tell us they're going to do it. Recall is on, full steam ahead. Like I said, we'll see. Coloradans will decide in November as well whether grocery and convenience stores can start selling wine. This made the ballot, and liquor stores are all kinds of agitated about it. They worry that allowing grocery stores to sell wine is going to put them out of business. You heard the same fear when grocery stores were allowed to start selling full-strength beer in 2019. An industry group for those stores in Colorado says smaller stores lost 30% of their business after the beer and grocery stores chain. But if those small ones went out of business, they were replaced by other liquor stores, because the state tells us the number of liquor stores is roughly the same as it was before. Voters are also going to get to decide whether to allow alcohol delivery through third-party services like DoorDash and Instacart. You can expect that the national grocery chains and food delivery companies are going to pour in a lot of big bucks to convince you to approve both those things. There are a lot of well-off people in Douglas County. It's a wealthy area. Yet there are also people there who are struggling to get by. Often they're older folks in rural areas of that county, and we can do something about that. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign has raised $11,000 and counting for Aging Resources of Douglas County. They offer help for seniors with transportation and yard work. They're also expanding a new program to bring hot meals to seniors in rural areas, people who often won't have another visitor all week. They come out with a meal, they've got time to talk, and an offer to help around the house with little stuff. They tell us that they're fighting hunger and loneliness at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491. We'll send you that link to join me in giving to Aging Resources of Douglas County. They are there for the people in our community who don't often have somebody else at all. Colorado's COVID situation is looking pretty good. It should keep improving, although another spike eventually is probably unavoidable. Let's raise a glass to women making beer in a male-dominated industry. It's starting to feel more like fall.
My good news is football season has started. Here we go.
Let's go. Friday nights, I got room for football and your good news. Next. We don't talk a lot about COVID anymore. That's good news. And it's because we're seeing encouraging COVID trends, dropping cases, hospitalizations, positivity. Yet everything experts know about the virus indicates it can't just trend down forever. Here's where things stand at the moment. About 6.3% of tests have come back positive over the last week. These are just the official tests, not at homes. That is the lowest rate we've seen since early May, and we're inching close to that 5% line, the threshold that says to public health experts that the virus is in check within a community. The Colorado School of Public Health says its projections show that COVID cases should drop for about the next 6 to 8 weeks as we go into the fall. Dr. Bailey Fosdick there says we can likely expect more waves, more increases in the future. She's watching to see if there's going to be some kind of game-changing new variant.
And at this time, there are no emerging variants that are extremely concerning. However, we know that as number of infections grows, we should expect to see new variants over time. The question is whether or not the variant will be so different than existing variants to cause different dynamics in the disease that we haven't seen yet. So we should expect new variants. When people hear about them in the news, they should not be shocked by that.
As the doctor suggested, the key is how similar they are to the past ones. If they're similar to past variants, our immune system should be able to fight them off.
Outside, we have a live look over downtown Denver. Very gloomy as we continue to monitor scattered storms all across the state. We're at around 71 degrees at DIA after a warmer afternoon. Those temperatures were in the mid-80s, so still below average, but warmer than what we're seeing now as we start to cool down for the evening. We have winds coming in from the northeast at around 18 miles per hour. And as you take a look at current temperatures across the Front Range and Eastern Plains, most of us in the mid to lower 70s, mid-60s in Colorado Springs, 50s and 60s in the high country, 72 out west in Grand Junction. So this is where we're seeing those scattered storms all across the state. But it looks like we did have a flash flood watch that was in effect over the Grizzly Creek burn area that's been allowed to expire. So that's good news there as those storms continue to push through. As we go through the rest of the week, though, we'll continue to see those temperatures get warmer. We're in the upper 80s Saturday and Sunday, staying mostly dry.
Thank you, Lauren. Come back anytime. Part of the Continental Divide Trail and the site where the Army trained soldiers for mountain warfare in World War II, they could be part of Colorado's newest national monument. Democrats in Colorado's congressional delegation are asking President Biden to create the Camp Hale Continental Divide National Monument. That's kind of a chewy name. It would be up in Eagle and Summit counties. A bill to protect the land, the CORE Act, hasn't been able to make it through Congress. A presidential designation would cover the Camp Hale National Historic Site, the 10-mile range, and 28 miles of the Continental Divide Trail. Camp Hale's where the Army trained the 10th Mountain Division, the soldiers who specialize in mountain and winter warfare. Republicans have fought some of these land designations because they can prevent oil and gas drilling and development of the land. Today is Women's Equality Day, a day commemorating women and their right to vote. Cheers to that. Priola, cheers to continuing to cut the wage gap. The brewers in town at Holidaily, Wagwan, Weldworks, and the Colorado Brewers Guild are tapping their 82-cent chai porter today. 82 cents, a reference to the wage gap between American men and women. For every 82 cents women earn, men in America earn $1. Karen Hertz from Holidaily says she sees the beer as a celebration of more and more women breaking into the craft beer industry.
When I started in the brewing industry, it was about 15 years ago, there were very few women within it. We are seeing big strides in the amount of women that are getting into craft beer, and that in turn gets more female customers trying out craft beer. And for a long time, I think people thought women weren't strong enough to brew, or maybe it was a physical labor situation, and turns out women can do anything.
According to the Brewers Association, just 3% of breweries in the U.S. are completely owned by women. Just 3%. About 41%, though, have at least one female owner.
My good news is I finished my first week of classes.
School's back, so is football. Your good news never went anywhere. Every Friday, we leave here on a positive note about what really matters, regardless of what happens to be in the news. Next. High school football is back. The players, the coaches, the fans, everybody who's out getting the fields ready for Friday night. We stopped by this afternoon to ask our favorite Friday question around here. What's your good news?
We spent all summer gearing up for week one, and then, just kind of hold on for dear life.
Oh, I love this stadium. Got so many memories running in high school and college here, and this place is amazing. We're with Colorado Christian University. Oh, we're just out here running around the track a little bit, getting fit for the year. Just a cross-country team. My good news is that I just got married this summer, and I'm really excited about it. Hi, Brooke.
You get people back in the stands, and school's back in session. It kind of has that fun environment for sure.
My good news is I finished my first week of classes.
My good news is football season has started. Here we go.
I always say that it's the best office. Get to be outside working against the foothills in Colorado, and there's not much that beats that view. Last night was the kickoff to my 18th season here at the NAC. My good news is that I actually just returned from being a part of the inaugural all-women's volunteer field maintenance crew at the Little League Softball World Series, where we made history, first time that's ever happened in sports field management.
I love what I do. I mean, just seeing kids' faces when you walk out of the field. Good news for me is everything's going back to normal slowly, and just being part of the kids. Very happy for this.
An epic edition of good news through the lens and drone of our photojournalist Tom Cole. You would notice the wood, though. Did you notice it? That's in your feedback next. Alex tweets, great story on the women in brewing. Related hops are ready. You guys want some? Mine got popped by hail, but they'll be okay. Aaron says the brewery woman certainly outdid Kyle with her background of wood. Did you catch that? Big basement vibes there. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.